Imagine you're walking through your town, and suddenly the people around you just start dancing, and they can't stop. They keep moving for hours, then those hours bleed into days. Eventually, their bodies push past the point of exhaustion, right up to the edge of death. The victims have no idea why they are doing it, and anyone watching is completely powerless to break the trance. The historical record confirms this occurred. It was known as the dancing plague. To understand how this happened, we need to look at Central Europe in the early 1500s. The people living through this era were already enduring a brutal baseline of existence. Famine and disease were constants, keeping the population in a perpetual state of high physical and mental stress. When one person stepped into the street and began to rhythmically writhe and spin, it was clear that this was no celebration. They moved as though they were trapped inside their own body. Then the compulsion spread. Dozens of neighbors joined in, and within weeks, hundreds of people were locked in the exact same uncontrollable frenzy. Their feet bled, their bones fractured, and many simply collapsed. Historical records verify that a significant number of these dancers died from sudden cardiac arrest and absolute physical exhaustion. What invisible force possesses the power to override the basic survival instincts of hundreds of people simultaneously? Modern researchers treating this cold case have combed through the historical evidence, and their first major suspect was biological, accidental poisoning, specifically a condition called ergotism. This happens when a fungus infects damp rye grain, which is then harvested, milled, and baked into the bread supply of an entire town. Consuming this toxic bread triggers severe physiological reactions, potent hallucinations, and violent muscle spasms. However, the biology contradicts the historical record. Ergot poisoning causes erratic twitching. The 1500s crowds engaged in highly coordinated rhythmic dancing for days on end. A purely biological pathogen simply cannot force hundreds of people to synchronize their movements and ignore fatal exhaustion. That physical dead end leads scientists to the current leading theory, a psychological pathogen known as mass psychogenic illness. This outlines mass psychogenic illness. When extreme social stress compounds, the brain converts psychological pressure into involuntary neurological symptoms. Drop this into the early 1500s. The cumulative misery of starvation and disease pushed the working class's collective psyche to a breaking point. The frantic dancing was essentially a mass short circuit of the human nervous system, a desperate physical release of built-up collective trauma. Psychological trauma proved to be the most potent catalyst, rippling through the population with the efficiency and lethality of a pathogen. Yet, even mass psychogenic illness struggles to fully explain the event. The sheer lethal scale and the agonizing duration of the dancing plague surpass almost any other recorded behavioral anomaly in history. You're watching Untold Indian Stories, where we explore mysteries that make you question reality. If you enjoy deep dives into the unknown, take a second to like, share, and subscribe. Despite centuries of modern science, the specific trigger that sparked this exact fatal outbreak remains an unsolved nightmare. Half a millennium later, we are still grasping at shadows. There is still no universally accepted explanation for what happened in those streets. This event exposes the deep-seated fragility of the human brain. Human psychology and collective belief systems remain highly contagious. In our current age, digital networks allow ideas and anxieties to travel instantly, creating a fertile environment for shared behaviors to spiral. The underlying terror of the dancing plague is realizing how easily a shared reality can fracture under the weight of unseen collective pressure. So we are left scanning the evidence. Was it mass hysteria, a localized toxic contaminant, or something we still lack the science to understand? If the human mind is capable of fracturing on such a synchronized scale when under pressure, then our modern world, defined by high-speed communication and global anxiety, might be equally vulnerable to a new form of mass compulsion. The conditions for a cataclysmic collapse in group behavior exist wherever extreme stress